friends, what's up? Kevin here from the MSOTD Rocks YouTube channel, and today is another episode of the Kevin Figures Out series where I try and figure out a band that's poised to make a big run in 2021. That band is Spiritbox. Before we get started though, please follow MSOTD Rocks on places like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. There you will get the 30-second song of the day featured as a new song every single day from a band that is a heavy hitter in the scene or one that is upcoming and emerging, so you can expand your musical horizons with us and get to know about all the great stuff coming up. We also will post anytime anything gets released on those places such as the YouTube channel, a podcast, any announcements, whatever it might be. We also post many times on those platforms to connect with you, ask you questions. It's a great way to connect with us and to drive a lot of conversation. On Instagram as well, every single Tuesday night, we have an IGTV video, which is a behind the scenes look at what's going on here, or just some kind of rant, which is what's kind of evolving to, but it's actually pretty good. And on Wednesday night, every single day at 9 p.m. Central, Wednesday that is, you can join our Instagram live stream. It is a live stream. We go live for 1 hour every single Wednesday night. Come talk to us. Whatever happens, happens. Please also subscribe to this YouTube channel because not only do you get the Kevin Figures Out videos, you also get other videos as well, like our album reviews. You can check out the 2020 year-end awards and see what was the best in 2020 in our minds. You can see all of our videos about emerging bands in the scene today and anything else we come up with. And this YouTube channel is also where the Chord Progression podcast lives. Yes, it is our very own podcast where we are interviewing the bands in the scene today that are emerging and are going to be the biggest in the end of the decade. And we've had some big ones on recently. We had Saul on back in October. We've had bands like Thrill the Fight, Kill Lights. And we've even had From Ashes to New with the episode coming out very shortly after the release of this video. So be sure to check that out. We have the videos of those podcasts right here on YouTube, or you can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and iHeart Radio. Links in the description below of everything. So like, share, subscribe. Tell your friends, but let's go! So a little bit of a background. Why am I picking Spiritbox to do a Kevin Figures Out video for? Well, there are three major reasons. One is the band really gained a lot of traction with their singles Blessed Be Holy Roller and Constant back in 2020. So with everything kind of coming up there and seeing a lot of people talk about these, I never really gave Spiritbox that much of a listen to with all the other stuff I was listening to at the time. So I thought, before 2021 hits and really gets its stride, maybe I should check them out to figure out if I like them or not. That's another reason with 2021, as it looks like Spiritbox is poised to release their second full-length album in 2021. So I want to know what really I think about Spiritbox and really if I can get into them or not off of this. And the third reason is my buddy Chris would not let me go on this one. He messaged me about Spiritbox a couple of times. Tried getting him on the podcast at one point when they're at about 150,000 Spotify listeners. At the moment right now, when I'm shooting this, they're over 450, so they basically tripled that. One other special reason I like doing this one is because Spiritbox is a female-fronted band, and throughout my time here on Earth and listening to music, I've always been much more in that rock, hard rock, heavy metal, and now metalcore kind of style, and I primarily stuck with male-fronted vocals. So when it comes to trying to figure out some more female-fronted vocals in the scene, I always like to see that happen, but it's going to be a question on what happens. Is it going to be something that I really like and can really latch on to, like I do with Baby Metal, Ginger, and with Diamante? Is it going to be something that I'm kind of like, okay, I'm a little neutral to this, but I'm excited to see where this goes, like Poppy? Or could this be the first one that I'm like, total pass? But again, we'll see what happens. So how is this video going to work? First thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the music from their self-titled album, the singles collection, and the singles that came out in 2019 and 2020 to really get a feel for what their music is. Second, I'm going to take a look at their image and their gimmick and really what drives them to be special and to be different from every other band in the scene, and see if that's something I can get behind. Think the horror trope from Ice Nine Kills or the whole gothic thing from New Year's Day and Motionless in White. Third, I'm going to take a look at their socials, how they interact with their community of fans, how the community of fans react with the artists, and really see if that's something I can really get into. And then we'll compile them all together and come up with the final verdict. So let's get started. So first things first, we got to listen to the music. So let me grab these bad boys. Let's go. Well, alrighty then. So of course I'm going to start out with this. I had to take a look at what their self-titled album brought first, and when I listened to it, really what I got was there was definitely a bass in that metalcore sound from the instrumentals that Spiritbox had, but where they're really going to stand apart is the vocals from Courtney, because she has two different vocal ranges that she can really work with that I saw. One is a much softer, more serene kind of style vocal that really isn't something like I've heard a lot of in the scene today, so this is definitely something that is different and can be rather powerful. The second is the unclean scream that she goes with, because I was having trouble differentiating if this was her or if this was some other guy. So that's where you know this is going to be good, if they really hit with that much power and that much vigor behind them. So I was excited. But how did this really work out in the end? So when it comes to Spiritbox and their self-titled album, what did I think about it? Well, when I listened to it, I love the way that they have their pieces constructed, and I love the way that the instrumentals are brought up. But the one thing that I was really struggling with was the mix between the vocals and the instrumentals, and the mix I think that could be definitely done in post-production. And what I mean by that is, when I was listening to the vocals primarily when Courtney was going with a softer vocal style, the instrumentals were mixed to be in there so prevalently that her vocals ended up getting drowned out in my ears, and I couldn't really figure out what she was trying to say or what she was going with. I could only really feel the emotion of the softer sound, but that serene sound really got lost with heavier instrumentation. This could have been a Spotify thing as well with the mix. However, going through the rest of the singles, I think you're going to see this come up even more so. With the unclean screams though, I thought they did a better job, but when you came to the clean, more serene style vocals, I thought getting drowned out by the instrumentals was really bad on the mixture that really left a lot to be desired for me, at least. So let's take a look at some examples to really take a peek at this. So when it comes to the vocals with the mix not being, well, take a look at the Mara effect, especially take a look at part 2. In part 2, the vocals are very clean and they have this breathy quality to them in the chorus, and the heavier drumming then also drowns out the sound. It just doesn't really work out. In part 3, when we look at that one, there is really no vocal change in the cleaner and less breathy style from the verse to the chorus, and it kind of makes the song have a monotone feel. Plus the heavy drum hits on the beat really drown out certain aspects of that clean vocal style, and it makes it really hard for me to try and follow along, especially with where the vocals are going in the storytelling mode with that metalcore sound. So it is a little bit rough around the edges there. Then you take a look at a song like Everything's Eventual, and this is the one that really stuck out to me the most when it comes to the mix not necessarily going right. When I looked at this one, the melodic and lighter metalcore bass that they went with kind of take over the vocals with both this percussion and guitar style, and I can't really tell where Courtney is going with this song because of how the percussion works. There's also a time where the mix could have been better, but just the opportunity was missed to really match those clean and unclean vocals to really bring it out. Take a look at a song like Apids, where you're sticking with this unclean sound here with the vocals, and I like it. Don't get me wrong, it's a cool move. However, I think this is a big missed opportunity, and that is because there's a constant architect sounding heavier feel with the metalcore that could have worked very well with a bit of contrasting clean and unclean to really bring out the urgency in the song, but in my opinion, it just really fell flat on that point. Now, was there something in the self-titled album that really did work out for me in my opinion? And that is yes. When I took a look at the contrast between clean and unclean vocals, for the majority when they worked with it, I thought it worked very well. Take a look at the Mara Effect Part 1. When I listened to this one, I really wasn't the biggest fan of how the clean vocals in the first verse and the chorus really mix well, but the unclean vocals really do a great job working with the harder instrumentation in the second verse, and it really brought me into the song and really allowed the second half of the song with the cleaner vocals really shine. Then take a look at The Beauty of Suffering. This is probably my favorite song on the whole entire album, and that's because starting out with that unclean vocal in more of a classic metalcore sense really lets this song fly when the cleaner vocals come in, and they create that great contrast, and the mix was done a lot better. Plus the instrumental style on The Beauty of Suffering was one of my favorite things because they really took that architect's bass sound and really brought out and let the vocals really amplify that as well. So I was a big fan of that. But overall, when it comes to their self-titled album, I really wasn't the biggest fan of it because, again, I like the way they were going with their pieces, and I like how certain things were constructed, but the biggest key here was, especially with the soft, serene style vocals that Courtney has, really are the selling point for this band. And on this album, I thought the mixture was way off on that to really not let me really immerse myself in those vocals, to really let the instrumentation drown that out. So yeah, this one was kind of rough for me, but hey, we still got more to go, so let's see what happens. So now time to take a look at the singles collection, which came out in 2019. There are 5 songs on this one, and I was hoping that we were going to get a little bit more of that harder, more architects kind of vibe really in there, with a lot more mixture as well, but with that being just the bass, and seeing how those clean unclean vocals really work out together, and to see the mixture on how the clean vocals would amplify and be a little bit more standout really would work. Well, we got some of that, but not really, and let me tell you what I mean by that. So what I mean by that, not really, is they did go and take that Architect style vibe, that Architect's chord. If you take a look at Tim McKenzie from the Punk Rock NBA, he describes this. But they took that style and they went so heavy in on it that a lot of these songs really just sounded like that kind of style. If you listen to Doomsday off of the Holy Hell album from 2018 by Architects, you're really going to see that style where there's a metalcore aspect in there heavily. However, there's a lot more of an electronic vibe to it as well, which really gives it a different sound. And there's a lot of bands that were doing that in 2019, and Spiritbox is no exception. And while I like the fact they went with that because that harder style does work out well for them and with a more serene sound, the issue I have with it is they stuck so heavily within that when they tried to bring some different influences in there, it was so heavy on that Architect's core base that they kind of all ran together. Now take a look at some examples. Take a look at Perennial, where you're taking more of that electronic-based guitar sound, but again, it's so heavy in the Architect's bass that the mixture really doesn't stand out. Take a look at Electric Cross, where I love the funky bass riff. Do not get me wrong, I think it's great. However, when you get into the rest of the song right after that intro, it really goes into the heavier Architect sound. Trustfall gives off a similar vibe that Electric Cross does with its instrumental construction, so it really ran together on that point. Balcara, I think I said that right, does have that heavier sound as well, but it's more based on that heavier Architect sound still, so I'm like, I'm really pulling this out of like this Architect's vibe. And Bleach Bath, man, this takes that genty vibe with the guitars, which is cool, but again, the bass is so heavily in that Architect style form that it just really stands out as these songs all kind of sound the same. And where I get lost is because they're relying so heavily on that. And there are parts of those genty guitar sounds with more of an electronic kind of vibe, and with that funky bass riff and Electric Cross. I'd love to see them play off more of that, using the Architect's core as a bass, but allowing them to expand even further into those more influences so they have a different style to them, and they really bring out more of that serene sound that Courtney's vocals can really shine with. So when it came to construction on those songs in the singles collection, I just thought they were way, way, way too similar with that Architect style inspiration. But what about the vocals from Courtney on this one? And I was disappointed once again because the mix was just way off. Again, using that serene, soft sound that Courtney has with her vocals can really make a lot of these songs stand out in a comparison and contrast out with her unclean vocals and with the more metalcore and Architect-inspired instrumentation. But the problem is with how heavy the instrumentation is, the mix is off to the point where Courtney's vocals get lost in time, and you really have a struggling time to figure out what's going on in those songs. At least I did when I was listening through them. So let me take a look at some examples to really show you what I mean by this. Starting out with the song Perennial, the genty guitars on this one and the verses are so powerful. The soft vocals from Courtney are almost eradicated from listening to them, and it just really does stand out as this could be an instrumental track and take Courtney out of it, and I really wouldn't notice much of a difference. Electric Cross has a little bit of a different thing going on where the softer style really fits the flow of the song really well, but the heavier instrumentation just completely makes me miss what she's trying to say in the song, where she's trying to go with this. Then take a look at Balcara, where the mix, in my opinion, is better on this one. However, the construction of the transition between the clean and unclean vocals is forced. It doesn't feel natural. It felt like this was put in there to really put it out there and just show the difference. But it doesn't feel natural, it doesn't feel clean, it feels forced, and it feels like those pieces work really well separate. When you try and mesh them together and you try and transition from one to the next, they just completely fail out there. Also, take a look at Bleach Bath, where the softer chorus vocals are better than the other ones, don't get me wrong, but they do end up getting drowned out a bit here, and the song just kind of comes up a little bit as a mess. So with the singles collection, I didn't like this one nearly as much as I liked the self-titled, but because it had this innate sameness feel to that Architect's bass style and the instrumentation, plus the sound of the vocals just got drowned out by a lot of the instrumentation. Again, the mix was really off here. So at this point, I'm thinking, man, I've heard an album, I've heard a singles collection EP, and this just doesn't seem to be working out for me, especially with the mix on the serene vocals. Man, are they just not hitting on this for me. However, we still got a couple singles to look at from 2019 and 2020, so let's jump into those and see what happens. So now jumping into the singles that came out 2019 and 2020, and Rule of Nines is the first one. And when I listened, I'm like, oh boy, here we go again, because it had that Architects-inspired sound, so I'm thinking, oh boy, we're getting the same thing over and over again, this is going to be ridiculous. However, there was an electronic trope in there that had this more horror feel to it, which I'm like, okay, that's a little bit more prevalent, that's giving the song a little more differentiation. I'm liking to see this kind of transition here. And the vocals, again, the mix was off. because the unclean mix in the second verse really makes the song hit you in the face with those badass intentions, but the clean vocals are always drowned out in some capacity. So again, I love what they're doing with the unclean vocals here because they really match up well, but the clean vocals I'm getting lost in once again because the instrumental mix is really drowning them out. It's just really taking me out of the whole entire thing. Now we're gonna go to 2020 with Blessed Be, and when I heard Blessed Be, I was getting excited for this one like I did when I heard The Beauty of Suffering off of the self-titled album. Why I did that is because there's still more that Architect's bass there, but the more electronic use, like they did in Rule of Nines, really made this one stand out as more of an Architect's inspiration instead of more of like a mimic of that style, which I really did like because now I'm starting to see them come more into their own with that electronic bass to it. And the song takes a softer approach as well. It lets the clean vocals in the verse and the chorus stand out even more with an equal playing feel, and it gives the song more of this reflective tone overall, which really works out with that serene style. But the unclean bridge though, whoo! Now that was killer. I was a big fan of that. Now we're gonna go to Holy Roller, and Holy Roller really took that sound of that metalcore, and they kind of moved more of that Architect inspiration. It was more of a metalcore feel, but really focused a little bit more on like a cyberpunk inspiration. Really brought more of that hardcore punk in the metalcore. Kind of similar to what Crystal Lake does. Ding, ding, ding. We'll get to that right in about a minute or so. And the unclean verses really match the brutality of the song going forward, and sticking with that unclean style honestly was the way to go on this one. It's because it perfectly matched the tone of the song overall, and the mix was needed here because softer vocals would have been cool in contrast, but I think the instrumentation really would have drowned them out. So going with full unclean vocals really did work out here. Plus featuring Rio from Crystal Lake on a different set of this to kind of give you a comparison contrast between just Chordy and then Chordy and Rio. Rio's vocals brought this more innate rawness and just roughness to the sound that really brought this great mixture overall here. So now I'm starting to get excited for Spiritbox. Like these singles are really starting to amp it up here. Now we're going to go to the last single that came out in 2020, which is Constance. And this one had definitely more of like an alternative serene vibe to it. So this one was a little bit different for me. And with the softer sound, this is where the mix of the clean vocals and the chorus really work out well because they play off with more of that alternative soft sound that lets you sink into the song. But the chorus mix, honestly, in my opinion, this could have been done better for another reason. And that's because the softer vocals are still honestly the way to go in this, but the grander style of the chorus versus the verses just allow these vocals to kind of just funnel together and just really mesh more into the instrumentation like we'd seen with the mixing problems from the previous ones that I mentioned. So when it comes down to, yeah, I like what they did with Constance. I like the take on a softer sound and with the softer vocals, but man, those vocals really need to stand out a little bit better with the mix. So now time for my verdict on the music. And when I take a listen to music, what do I think of it? In my personal opinion, I'm gonna say the jury's out until we see the next album. And the reason I'm gonna say that is because what I've seen from Spiritbox is with their metalcore style and the serene style they can also work with, they really do understand, especially hearing the singles that have come out in 2019 and 2020. And also the pieces that they have constructed with how they have these sounds with the clean vocals and the more of the metalcore and the unclean vocals with their metalcore really do stand out as a compare and contrast style where I like the unclean stuff better than the clean stuff. So the pieces really do work out. However, I am consistently worried about the mix here because those serene vocals are consistently getting lost in the instrumentation where the mix is completely off. And again, this could be a Spotify issue. However, because this kept coming up over and over and over again, I'm not necessarily sure it is on my opinion. However, we do get something like Holy Roller where all of a sudden we're going to get that brutal metalcore sound. I'm like, holy crap, this is awesome. We're going to get something with Constance where that softer, serene sound really does work out well, where the mix is getting better. And because I'm seeing that progression happen, I don't want to make a full judgment yet until I see what happens going into 2021. I do like their sound, I do like their uniqueness to it. However, it's just the mix is way off to the point where I'm used to that heavier, harder, brasher, in-your-face kind of style, and the softer kind of style just really doesn't affect me. However, again, it could be also the mixing issue as well because those clean vocals are consistently getting drowned out. I hope it's not that way in the second album. But then again, we'll see what happens. Will I still take a look at the second album and see how this plays out? Absolutely. So now it's time to take a look at the image and the gimmick of Spiritbox. And when taking a look at their bio on their website, they say it has that savagery of metalcore, but then that serene alt style. So they're going to get a different mix here. And that serene alt style in that metalcore is definitely their gimmick here. And it's all driven off of Courtney's vocal set because using that more alternative and metalcore approach at the same time, you really can bring out a lot of those harder sounds, and Courtney's unclean vocals really do provide that really going screaming in full force into it. However, the more serene, softer vocals really give the songs more of this like depressive and more reflective and a little bit more of this downtrodden tone overall, which in metalcore and anywhere else around the times that we live in, I'm not really seeing this nearly as much. So this is definitely something that gives them their own gimmick in a way. Similar to the, again, like I said, the emo and more goth kind of style, I should say actually goth, not emo style, of like Motionless White New Year's Day, and the horror trope that Ice Nine Kills goes with. So when I really think about it, even taking a look at the image and taking a look at how they look, they're usually in their promos, they're usually consistently wearing black. And when you look at the music videos, the coloring outside of Holy Roller, they usually have more of these darker tones to the coloring, the way that's shot, and just the way it looks, it kind of gives off more of that depressed, more serene vibe, which makes total sense. However, when it comes to that aspect, I have a little bit of trouble getting into it because, again, I like something that's more brash, in your face. So again, this gimmick is going to be something that is tougher for me to get into. However, I do fully respect it. So now when it comes to a live setting, I had to go to YouTube and watch some of the live videos from Spiritbox. And when I watched the live videos, it did make sense on how they worked. Taking a look at the guys in the band when they're playing, they're consistently going more of that classic metalcore stance, power stance, even some crabcore kind of style stuff, but not really doing the crazy crabcore attack kind of stuff. But what they're doing is they're kind of having that power stance, really driving more of the power from the metalcore sound, so you're really going to get that from the guys. However, everyone's going to be looking at Courtney because she is the front woman of the band, so when you're playing live, you're going to focus on her. And what I have to applaud Courtney for on this is how her movements change given the style of vocal that she goes with. If she's going to be clean and more serene, she's going to have this more flowing presence to her, a little bit of a softer style, and really more of a concentrated, fluid force that really does work out with that more serene style. However, when she goes unclean, gets more rigid, gets more kind of just like tensed up, and really delivers a more rigid performance on that kind of style. And that really does work out well because when you're at a show, you want that kind of energy coming from the vocalist depending upon their vocal set. And Courtney really does work with this well from the videos that I've seen online. I haven't seen them live yet because of the whole entire 2020 coronavirus shutdown thing that we're still living in. However, I am excited to see this live because I think it'd be cool. So when it comes down to the image of the gimmick, where am I on this? I'm going to say neutral on this because I'm going to go with live shows once again. Yes, I do want to see them play live because I think they really understand how their sound works within each member of the band, how to perform that on stage. When it comes to the gimmick, I'm going to be neutral on this because, like I said, I came up more with that hard rock, punk rock, and really got into metalcore style vibe. So I like more of that brash, brazen, full, high energy, in your face kind of gimmick that really works out here. Spiritbox's gimmick, again, not saying gimmick is a bad thing, being as the thing that really sets them apart from everybody else, is that more serene alt style to the metalcore, and that softer sound really isn't something that works out well for me. However, I do fully respect it because it is different. It is pretty dang cool, don't get me wrong. And I know why a lot of people like it, and I love the fact they're taking that and making it their own. So I'm going to stay neutral on this one. Now it's time to take a look at how Spiritbox interacts with their community of fans, and if that community of fans is something that I could really get myself into and really submerge myself into very easily. Taking a look at Facebook for this one, for the band, I'm taking a look at them and like they got 42,000 likes overall around that at the time of shooting this. Taking a look at how they post, their posts are much grander in terms of the style. They're usually posting something that has a picture to it or has a huge link to it in terms of new music, new video, merch link, interview link, press link, whatever it might be. And this does make sense, similar to what Diamante does on her page that I talked about 2 weeks ago, where, again, this is more of like a traffic driving, this is more of an announcement style thing that bands are doing on their Facebook page, and it totally does make sense because it's a more quick hit, more long-form, link-driven kind of style. So it does make sense. Taking a look at the comments, though, I am liking what I'm seeing here because, again, it's people that are not commenting nearly as much I've seen on other bands. However, everyone is supportive, and I have seen some meaningful discussions in there where, again, people aren't bashing each other. The big thing I gotta look at the other ones is how are they treating Twitter and Instagram? Because if they're treating Twitter and Instagram the same way they're treating Facebook, we're gonna have a little bit of an issue here. But then we're also gonna take a look at how Courtney treats her Twitter and Instagram personally, because again, as the front person of the band or front woman of the band, yeah, people are gonna be looking at you as well. So I want to see how this compares and contrasts. Taking a look at the band's Twitter page, this is something I kind of expected, but it is a little bit different than what I saw from Diamante. Where with Diamante, I saw on the Diamante Twitter page where it was a more consistent style of just posting whatever else was on Facebook, really going through it, and a couple of different posts following that in tweets. Yes, she did retweet my video, so I was like, oh. but that was a different story. Now going to Spiritbox, so they have about 871 tweets as I was recording this video. And again, it was more driven towards that link kind of style where stories about what they were doing in the press, podcasts, videos, merch stuff, all that kind of stuff is out there. However, what they do a little bit differently though for this one is they don't really do like a carbon copy and paste from Facebook over to Twitter. They do interact with some different publications as well that post some of their stuff, and they do it with more of a tweet kind of style centric thing. So I'm like, you know what? As much as I'm not really that big into this, I do like the fact that they are kind of differentiating a little bit. Now on to Instagram. Taking a look at Instagram, again, I'm going to see something that was very similar to Diamante on this one, where on the band's Instagram page, we're going to get more of those curated kind of photos or curated videos from the band that really stand out a little bit more towards the fans, a little bit more centered towards them. And yes, they're going to be very similar and a little bit different also at times, so what we've seen on Twitter and Facebook. However, it's where the engagement comes in. On Twitter, I saw a lot less engagement, but that's because they have a lot less followers. Instagram, they have a lot more, so a lot more people are commenting. A lot of positivity, a lot of thanking the band for stuff, and the band does interact with them from time to time. However, the interaction from the band on their page is very copy and paste. A lot of just thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, that kind of stuff. And so you're not really getting a lot there from the band on the band's page. However, I do understand that because at times it does work out. However, I've seen other bands really take this to a whole fold. Like again, like I saw with Fallen Verse with Ronnie Radke really take it to a fold. However, that was on his own personal one. Same thing with Special Charge from Ice Nine Kills. So take a look at Courtney's on this one specifically, Twitter and Instagram, to see how this works out. So taking a look at Courtney's Twitter, and honestly, I'm liking what I'm seeing here because we're seeing a little bit more of a free flow kind of style from Courtney where she is freely expressing her thoughts, opinions, sometimes some funny stuff, but really the one that stood out to me was a tweet, little thread about the Austin Carlisle situation and her putting out her full thoughts and expectations on what was going on. And I like that because you're giving yourself more of a human quality. You're letting yourself and your fans connect more with you. I'm all for that. And even on some of the response tweets as well to that thread, she responded to them as well. You don't have to respond to all of them, but responding to some and really giving a connection to the fans on that front really is going to go a long way. And I am a big fan of that. And I hope Courtney does more of that in the future. Take a look at Instagram. The photos are not nearly as curated, which is, again, cool because it gives you more of that human touch. And the fans are, again, very supportive on that kind of a comment thread. And she's also consistently commenting, again, not all the time, not on every single comment, but she is commenting back to these people with more of a personal touch, more of a thank you, some emoji kind of stuff, similar to what Diamante did. And in my opinion, when it comes to community fans I've seen is very nice, very understanding, and loves to just support Spiritbox. So if I really can get into Spiritbox, this would be community fans that I can really get into, so I do like it. However, if I'm not going to be super into Spiritbox, this is going to be something that's going to be a make or break thing. So their community fans is never going to give them a bad rep up to this point. So I'm going to be more neutral because it's going to be harder for me to get into because I'm really not neutral on the music, or I'm really more neutral on the music right now. But we'll see what happens after 2021. Then when it comes to seeing how Courtney interacts with her fans on Twitter and Instagram, I'm liking that a little bit more. Even if there's some things I might not necessarily agree with her on. Again, I didn't look at everything that she said, and I haven't really formulated a lot of it, but I've seen just kind of what was happening. I'm like, okay, I like the fact that you're putting yourself out there. There's some things I might agree with, some things I might not agree with, but I like how you're being your genuine self, and that is really a key here, so that's a plus for me. So, time to figure this out in the end. So now it's final verdict time, so let's review. When it comes to the music, I am neutral on it because I like the mixture, I like the pieces that they have, and I like what they do with the unclean vocals. However, very consistently, the mix with the clean vocals and the more serene style is consistently off to the point where the clean vocals are consistently getting lost within that instrumentation. I have seen it improve over time, especially in the singles, and with the second album coming out, hopefully sometime in 2021, I'm hoping to see that really amp up. However, I'm going to remain neutral to this kind of side. When it comes to the image and gimmick, they really do understand, especially live, how to flow with that cleaner and then unclean style along with the metalcore flow between not only Courtney, but the other guys in the band as well. And then the gimmick of really having that more serene alt sound with the metalcore, I do respect it. Do not get me wrong. I do like the fact they have that to latch onto and really be their own thing. However, that's not something I'm really going to fully immerse myself into because classically, from my standpoint, again, punk rock, hard rock, metalcore, I'm in more that brash, brazen, in-your-face, rougher around the edges kind of style. So it's not something I can really get into as well. However, I'm gonna remain neutral on it due to the fact that I really do like what they've done. When it comes to community of fans, again, I'm gonna remain more neutral on this one as well, because it's a community that if I was really into Spiritbox, I could easily jump into. However, if I'm not gonna be one to really jump into that whole entire community of fandom. Would I get along with the Spiritbox fans? Absolutely I would. They love their music, they love their band, I'd love to talk to them all about it, and that's what I'm hoping for the comments in this video. So the final verdict, what do I think of Spiritbox? And my thing is gonna be neutral. With a caveat though, and the caveat is I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in 2021, and I do have good hopes for that because this band is poised to explode in 2021, and I'm really excited to see what they do with that. So when it comes to that, like, neutral, but I'm keeping my eye on you, and I'm really excited to see where you go from here, it's very similar to what I said about Poppy. So they're kind of in that realm where I'm really in the middle on them now, but the potential to really get into them is there. Again, it's going to see what happens in 2021. So on that note, that's going to be it for me today, guys. Thank you for watching and listening to this video. If you like what I said about Spiritbox and you think I got it right, put it in the comments. If there's some things I missed or some things you disagree with, please comment them in below. Put out your reasons why. Please explain to me why you think I got them wrong, and let's have a conversation about it. Let's not yell at each other. Again, we all like different kind of music, so let's just put it out there and just enjoy our discussion of music. How about that? That's it for me today, guys. Thank you for watching and listening once again. Paris is going to be my next Figure Out video, which is going to be the week after this, so that'll be fun. This is Kevin from the MSOTD Rocks YouTube channel. Let's end with the hat flip. Nope, but see ya!